Who is Mao Zedong, Chairman Mao? Why didn't Mao conquer Taiwan? Mao Zedong, 1893–1976, was a Chinese communist revolutionary and the founding father of the People's Republic of China. He was the leader of the Chinese Communist Party from 1935 until his death in 1976. Mao's ideas and policies had a profound impact on China and the world, and his legacy continues to shape Chinese politics and society today. Mao's rise to power began in the 1920s, when he became a founding member of the Chinese Communist Party. He played a leading role in the Long March of 1934–1935, a strategic retreat by the Chinese Communist Party that allowed it to regroup and eventually defeat the Nationalist Party in the Chinese Civil War. Mao's leadership during the Civil War, which ended in 1949, led to the establishment of the People's Republic of China, with Mao as its first chairman. Mao's policies as leader of China had a significant impact on the country's political, economic, and social development. He sought to transform China from a traditional agrarian society into a modern socialist state through the Great Leap Forward campaign in the late 1950s and early 1960s, which aimed to rapidly industrialize China and increase agricultural productivity. However, the campaign was poorly planned and executed, leading to widespread famine and economic hardship. Mao's Cultural Revolution, which began in 1966, was an attempt to purge China of traditional and capitalist elements and create a new socialist culture. The movement resulted in widespread violence, persecution, and destruction of cultural heritage sites, as well as significant political instability in China. Despite Mao's military successes in the Chinese Civil War and his leadership of China, he was unable to conquer Taiwan. In 1949, when the Nationalist Party was defeated by the Communist Party, the Nationalists fled to Taiwan, where they established a government in exile. Mao sought to reunify Taiwan with the mainland, but his efforts were met with resistance from the US, which supported Taiwan and provided military aid to the Nationalists. Mao's attempts to conquer Taiwan were also hindered by the rugged terrain and difficult geography of the island, which made it difficult to launch a successful invasion. In addition, the Nationalists had a strong military presence on the island, which made it difficult for the Communist forces to gain a foothold. Despite Mao's failure to conquer Taiwan, the issue of reunification remained a central concern for the Chinese government, and it continues to be a significant issue in Chinese politics today. The Chinese government has advocated for a peaceful reunification with Taiwan, but tensions between the two sides remain high. One interesting story about Mao Zedong is his swim across the Yangtze River in 1966. Mao, then 72 years old, decided to swim across the river to demonstrate his physical vitality and stamina. He swam for several hours, accompanied by a group of loyal supporters, and was greeted with enthusiasm by the Chinese people. However, the swim was also seen as a political stunt and a way for Mao to reinforce his image as a strong and capable leader. Another interesting story about Mao is his relationship with US President Richard Nixon. In 1972, Nixon made a historic visit to China, becoming the first US president to visit the country since its founding. The visit was a significant diplomatic breakthrough and paved the way for improved relations between the US and China. During his visit, Nixon met with Mao, and the two leaders engaged in a series of discussions on a range of issues. The meeting was seen as a significant moment in the history of the Cold War and demonstrated the importance of diplomacy and engagement in international relations. Here are top 10 Mao's communist movements which caused pains and disasters for Chinese people. 1. The Great Leap Forward. This campaign was launched in 1958 and aimed to rapidly industrialize China and increase agricultural productivity. However, it was poorly planned and executed, leading to widespread famine and economic hardship. The campaign is estimated to have caused the deaths of between 18 and 45 million people. 2. The Cultural Revolution. This movement began in 1966 and sought to purge China of traditional and capitalist elements and create a new socialist culture. The movement resulted in widespread violence, persecution, and destruction of cultural heritage sites, as well as significant political instability in China. 3. Land reform. In the early 1950s, Mao launched a land reform campaign that aimed to redistribute land from wealthy landowners to poor peasants. While the campaign was initially successful in reducing wealth inequality, it also led to widespread violence and persecution of landowners, and many innocent people were falsely accused and executed. 4. Anti-rightist campaign. In 1957, Mao launched an anti-rightist campaign that targeted intellectuals and other critics of the Communist Party. Thousands of people were persecuted, and many were sent to labor camps or executed. 5. Suppression of counter-revolutionaries. In the early years of the People's Republic of China, Mao launched a campaign to suppress counter-revolutionaries, which led to the arrest and execution of thousands of people. 6-4 Pests Campaign. In 1958, Mao launched a campaign to eradicate rats, flies, mosquitoes, and sparrows, which he believed were hindering agricultural productivity. The campaign resulted in the widespread killing of sparrows, which led to an ecological imbalance and an increase in the population of locusts, which then destroyed crops and led to a famine. 7 Collectivization. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, Mao launched a campaign to collectivize agriculture in China. While the campaign was successful in increasing agricultural productivity, it also led to the forced relocation of millions of peasants and widespread persecution of those who resisted collectivization. 8 Campaign to suppress counter-revolutionaries in Tibet. In the 1950s and 1960s, Mao launched a campaign to suppress counter-revolutionaries in Tibet, which led to the forced relocation of Tibetans, the destruction of cultural heritage sites, and the persecution of Buddhist monks and nuns. 9 One-Child Policy. In 1979, Mao's successor, Deng Xiaoping, launched a campaign to limit population growth in China by imposing a one-child policy. While the policy was successful in reducing population growth, it also led to widespread human rights abuses, including forced abortions and sterilizations. 10 Campaign to suppress the anti-revolutionary movement. In the 1950s, Mao launched a campaign to suppress the anti-revolutionary movement, which targeted intellectuals and other critics of the Communist Party. The campaign resulted in the persecution and imprisonment of thousands of people, and many were falsely accused and executed. In conclusion, Mao Zedong was a significant figure in Chinese history, and his legacy continues to shape Chinese politics and society today. Mao's rise to power, his policies, and his attempts to conquer Taiwan are all important aspects of his legacy. While he was successful in leading China to victory in the Chinese Civil War and establishing the People's Republic of China, his policies had mixed results and led to significant hardship for the Chinese people. His failure to conquer Taiwan was due to a combination of factors, including US military support for the nationalists, difficult geography, and a strong nationalist military presence on the island. Despite his controversial legacy, Mao remains an important figure in Chinese history and culture. His writings and speeches continue to be studied and debated in China, and he is widely regarded as one of the most influential figures in Chinese history. Here is a poem about Mao's faults of his communist movements in China. In the land of China, Mao did rise, with dreams of change that lit his eyes. A communist vision, a better way. But his faults would lead astray. The Great Leap Forward, a bold new plan, but executed poorly, led to a barren land. Millions died, famine struck. Mao's dream, it ran AMUCK. Cultural revolution, another try. But violence and chaos, it did supply. Destroying culture, persecuting those who dared to speak out, to oppose. Land reform, a noble cause. But violence and false accusations, it did pause. The innocent suffered, the guilty walked free. Mao's faults, a sight to see. Anti-rightist, suppression of counter-revolutionaries. Campaigns to suppress Mao's adversaries. One-child policy, forced abortion and sterilization. Mao's faults, a grave realization. Collectivization, forced relocation. Tibetan persecution, a grim situation. 4 Pests Campaign, ecological disaster. Mao's faults, a story of the master. In the land of China, Mao did rise. But his faults, they led to demise. A communist vision, a noble dream. But his faults, a haunting scream. ***, start planning your next global adventure with ease and convenience with our Booking.com referral link. https://www.booking.com/index.html $8 = 7989335 as a great choice to plan your next trip. You can find and book flights, hotels, cars, and local attractions all in one place, and their price match guarantee ensures you're getting the best deal. Thank you for kind support our AnHub Metaverse channel, and please watch more interesting videos here.